Everybody go like this. Do you smell the bread? We baked bread here this morning, so it should just be like all over. And we're going to have this wonderful bread meditation after the reflection today. So I'm going to ask the ushers to come forward, and they have baskets full of bread. And those bread pieces are cubed already, and there's another bowl inside the basket that has gluten-free bread in it. So if you need gluten-free bread, be sure you take from that little bowl inside the basket. But everybody, please take a piece of bread. Now we're going to ask you to hold on to this piece of bread for the whole of the reflection, and then it will be your bread for communion. So you need to bring it up with you for communion. Can you do that? Can you resist eating it for that long? I don't know, with that smell in the air and everything. Make sure that everybody gets a piece, and then we'll have baskets available during communion too if you really just can't hold yourself together. But we don't have a whole lot of extra bread, so please try to just hang on to it ahead of time, okay? Bread is a marvelous thing, and the smell of it just really has been making me hungry all morning. I can't wait. So we're going to start this morning's reflection with our scripture from the 6th chapter of the Gospel of John. And Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. But I said to you that you have seen me, and yet you do not believe. Everything that the Father gives me will come to me, and anyone who comes to me I will never drive away. For I have come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And this is the will of him who sent me, that I should lose nothing of all that he has given me, but raise it up on that last day."
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. So when you think about Christmas and baking, what comes to mind? What foods? I mean, sure, yeah, that. Surely cookies are an obvious one. Those frosted cookies with the different Santa faces and stars and such. Of course, there's also those gingerbread cookies. It tastes so wonderful and warm. And how about those Swedish sugar cookies? Oh, man, melt in your mouth. Yeah. Yeah, making you hungrier still now, huh? My personal favorite, those peanut butter cookies. You put those Hershey's Kisses right in. Oh, boy. Those are great. Of course, it's not just cookies that we bake around the holidays. There's all kinds of holiday breads as well. I think about cinnamon rolls, for instance. My wife makes a whole pan of those for every Christmas morning. They're practically a food group of themselves for us. Or Christmas sticky buns. Love those things, hot and sticky, and maybe pecans on them. The Italian, was that panettone bread, right? Anybody do that every year? Huh? Panettone. Thank you. I'm almost afraid to say the German, Stollen? Stalin? Stellen? Stalin, okay. That almost sounds Russian to me, but anyway, there's that. There's the just good old sour cream coffee cake. And then if you go to Le Quartier and you order this before Christmas, they sell a chocolate cranberry brioche bread that is to die for Christmas. Just wonderful. But you know what? I would trade all that stuff in for just one kind of bread. My very favorite Christmas bread is actually Norwegian lefse. Yeah, I hear some of you are familiar with that. For those of you who are not familiar with the finer delicacies of lefse, it's a potato bread. It's rolled out thin. It's made of potatoes and flour and milk and cream and butter. You roll that thin. You cook it on a griddle, and then you spread it with butter and cinnamon and sugar, and you roll it up and just it is just, I'm sure that the angels in heaven have this every single day of their existence. It's my favorite. And since my father was a crazy Norwegian, every single year at Christmas we made a big Scandinavian Christmas dinner. And so literally every single year of my life I've had lefse at Christmas time. So it really screams Christmas to me. In fact, you really could take away all of the extra stuff. You take away all the other Christmas foods. You could take away the Christmas decorations. You can take away even the Christmas tree and the Christmas gifts. And I would be happy and in the Christmas spirit if I had just two things. That is, Jesus and lefse. Okay, I'll admit that's not Jesus, that's Santa. But do you know how hard it is to find a picture of Jesus and lefse on the internet? They both got beards. So, yeah, Jesus and lefse would be my pick. Now, what I did find on the internet, though, besides this, what was this? Real Lutherans love Jesus and homemade lefse. So we know that Chris is truly a real Lutheran, and maybe I'm in the wrong denomination. I don't know, but that's what it is. But, there's more of a connection between Jesus and lefse than what may be apparent. When Jesus says that I am the bread of life, you eat this bread and you'll never go hungry. All you need is this bread. In essence, what he's saying is, on the spiritual level, I'm the spiritual lefse. This is all you need. You just need, if you have a taste of this bread, you'll be fine. You'll be satisfied. Your hunger will be truly satisfied. That's all well and good for Jesus to say this in the Gospel of John, but what does it really mean? That he is the bread of life. I mean, surely it's not, his physical body is not bread. When he refers to the bread of life, something that you could, on a spiritual level, consume or take into you, and then on a spiritual level, there'd be some hunger that has not been satisfied, that would always be satisfied after that. I mean, what is that experience? That's really a central question for us this morning that the Gospel of John raises for us. What is the experience? What experience does eating the bread of life refer to? Well, Dan Love and Crum is not going to answer that question for us, but he is going to get us deeper into it with a brief bread meditation.
Take a moment and come up on the edge of your seat, sit up tall, put the soles of your feet on the floor. And then take your piece of bread and just put it in your hands. And take a deep breath in with me through your nose and exhale it out with a sigh. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale it out with a sigh. Breathe in through your nose. And next time you exhale, close your eyes and close your mouth and blow out through your nose. And then just begin to breathe in and out. Allow yourself to begin to find your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Use your breath as a tool to just be here. Breathing in and breathing out. The breath can be that tool to be here, but then to begin just to be aware of the bread in your hand. Breathe in and breathe out. Over the next couple breaths, just see if you can lengthen your breath a little bit longer. Allowing yourself to be still. Allowing yourself to be here. Be gentle when you touch bread. Let it not lie uncared for, unwanted. So often bread is taken for granted. take a couple moments and just ponder our taking bread for granted. There's so many people that do not take bread for granted. Just be with that. There is such beauty in bread, beauty in the sun and soil, beauty in the patient toil. Take a few moments. Honor what God has put on this earth to bring us bread. Honor the people and the hands that create the bread that we eat. Wind and sun have caressed it. Christ often blessed it. Take a few moments and honor Christ's blessings. Be gentle when you touch bread.
There is a place where you can learn to rest and be still in His presence. A place where faith and doubt collide, and you'll find that God is on your side. Be very sure that God is watching you, and He sees what you're going through. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, blessed is the one who trusts, and blessed is the one who trusts. Blessed is the one who trusts in Him. There is a place where you experience His grace and know His favor, a place where holy truth abides, and you feel you're the apple of His eye. Look deep inside, and you will realize that God has been there all your life. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, blessed is the one who trusts.
Blessed is the one.
Blessed is the one who trusts.
Blessed is the one.
Blessed is the one who trusts in Him.
Taste and see.
Taste and see
that the Lord is good. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Taste and see that the Lord is
Taste and see
that the Lord
Continuing with chapter 6 of Gospel of John. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes has eternal life. I am the bread of life. Your ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread that comes down from heaven, so that one may eat of it and not die. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats of this bread will live forever. And the bread that I will give for the life of the world is my flesh.
I am the bread of life. Food for the journey. Faith for the soul. Rhythms of sweet Jesus, in the stretch and in the pull, in the kneading and the weaving, in the braids and in the folds. Can you feel me when you hunger from the insides out? Can you find crumbs and morsels in a world so filled with hope? I am spoken in the body. I am tasted by the tongue, torn apart by fingers, held by tiny thumbs. Can you sense me as you gather when you're tearing from the loaves? I am beauty in the texture and the presence of the sun.
So I am the bread of life. You eat this and you never hunger again. What is that concrete experience to which Jesus' words refer? When I think of his words and the bread of life, I think actually of a very specific experience in my life where I feel like I tasted that bread. And I felt that it filled something within me that really has always been filled or fillable ever since. It's a very central experience in my life. Therefore, some of you already know it because I wrote about it in Gifts of the Dark Wood. And I think I preached about it about 5 years ago during a sermon. But perhaps hearing this experience through the lens of the bread of life, it might help connect you with your own inner experience, your own filling, or your own hunger, perhaps. For my story, definitely involves hunger. When I was younger, when I went to college, I could not afford to go to the college that I chose to go to, Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington, small private liberal arts college. Consequently, every summer it found me up in this spot where the red dot is in southwestern Alaska, in a rough and ready town called Dillingham, where you can only reach by plane or boat. And in Dillingham, I was part of a salmon canning operation, working for Peter Pan Seafoods. No connection to the peanut butter. But every year I'd go up, and when the salmon was running, we would literally work from 7 in the morning until midnight every day without any break. But the great news was that after about just 6 weeks, I could amass enough money that I could go back to the lower 48 and write Whitman College a check for $8,000, which is what I had to do to make it through every year of school. God, it's a whole different ballgame now, isn't it, in today's climate? But that's how I made it through. Now, the summer before my senior year of college, I had extra need for it to be a big salmon season. Because my bank account was completely dry. I arrived in Dillingham with not a penny in my pocket, so I needed to earn the whole thing that summer in order to finish school. Now, added to that pressure was the fact that just several months earlier, I had finally reconciled myself to my sense of calling to ministry, a sense of call that I'd been running from for literally 4 years. God had just kind of gotten through to a crack inside me with that generous, warm invitation, and I finally said, yes, I will go into the ministry. So, of course, in order to go into the ministry, I had to finish college and then go into seminary after that. So I really needed those funds that year. I was hoping to just kind of basically, the salmon would open up a huge spigot and just flood my bank account with tons of green stuff there. So I go up there with high hopes and a bit of an anxiety, and it just so happened that particular season was one of the worst seasons that they'd had in decades. After just 4 weeks, they were going to send us home. And after just 4 weeks, at trying to work every hour I possibly could find around the cannery, I had amassed a whopping $1,200 of the $8,000 that I needed. And I was panicked. I was going to go home in a few days and didn't know what was going on. So I remember walking out on the bluffs of Dillingham, just in utter anxiety, feeling like God had abandoned me. Here I had told God just months earlier, I will respond to your call to ministry, and it just felt like God had just pulled the rug right out from under me, and there was no possibility of recovery there. And I prayed and criticized and everything I could do to God, asking, is there just anything? Could I buy a lottery ticket? Is there an unknown relative who's rich who might have pity on me, or could the salmon will they show up by surprise or something? And I remember just getting more and more worked up, and finally I was literally in the midst of internally screaming at God, I need the money, when suddenly just this whiff of a thought just went right through me and it took me aback. I paused because what I sensed was this: you're praying the wrong prayer. I'm like, what do you mean I'm praying the wrong prayer? I need money. It's plain and simple. And once again, you're praying the wrong prayer. Like, all right, well, if I'm praying the wrong prayer, what is the right prayer? Because I can't figure it out. All I see is I'm trying to fulfill the mission that I thought you were putting me on, and I don't have any way. What you're praying for is not your highest priority. What I'm praying for is not my highest priority. I mean, there is no way to make it forward without this money. It's not your highest priority. What is your highest desire? I got nothing. What is my highest desire? Why don't you pray that I'm with you? That no matter whether you get the money or not, that you'll feel my presence. You'll sense that I'm with you, and I can guide you. I thought about it. I thought, well, yeah, I guess that is a higher priority than getting the money, because I could get the money if I don't have a sense of God's presence. I know what it's like to feel no sense of God, and it's like right now, and it really hurts, and it really feels empty. It feels like a terrible void. But if I had that void filled, then if I didn't get the money, then, well, I would have something that's more important to me. So I find it was a little hard for me to wrap my mind around for a little bit. But as it sunk in, it's like, yeah, no, I truly want God's presence more than I want anything else. I want that sense that I can step out into the great unknown and even just fail miserably at my mission and still know that God is with me. Yes, I want your presence more than anything else. And once I said that with all my heart, like completely sincerely, like this is truly what I want most, more than anything else, it was immediate. The bricks, it just felt like 10,000 bricks just came right off of my shoulders. The weight, and I just felt this incredible sense of lightness of being. Even hints of joy, even. And I remember walking around the cannery. I was just there for another 2 or 3 days, and that joy and that sense of lightness and ease continued, even though I concluded basically, okay, I'm not going to get the money. I'm not going to be able to go back to college, but for some reason, yeah, I feel better about that. I feel I could make it through that experience. And because I wasn't obsessing about this need so much, I was more open to my surroundings, noticing what was happening around me. And there was this one lunch in the cafeteria where I was then just kind of good spirit and just kind of noticing stuff, and I overheard a conversation nearby. Somebody was telling their friend that they'd heard that there was another salmon season that was just starting in southeastern Alaska, in a little town of Petersburg. And that there's a cannery there that was hiring people for the start of the new season. Well, I never knew that there were different seasons in Alaska. I thought all the salmon just kind of came at once, and that was it. But sure enough, I checked into it, and there was a new season, and there was a cannery that was hiring. I called them. They couldn't assure me a job, but they said you could always come down and apply, no guarantees. Well, I figured I could spend the $600 it would cost me to get down there, because I mean, what's the difference between having $600 and $1,200? What do you need, so much? And so I spent that money, and I went down to Petersburg, and what turns out I was hired that night onto the quality assurance team. And Petersburg, as opposed to Dillingham, ended up having the best salmon season they'd had in 100 years. So many salmon came in that literally some of us, those of us on quality assurance, were working from 6:30 in the morning until 1:30 in the morning, sometimes 2:30 in the morning for a month straight without a break. I mean, it nearly killed us. It was just, I've never worked so hard. But I was able to go back to the lower 48, and I had $9,600 in my bank account. So that I'd never been so happy to write an $8,000 check to my college. Well, I consider what happened up in Dillingham a miracle, and Petersburg. A miracle, true miracle in my life, a time when God really was at work. But the biggest miracle was not getting the money. I mean, that was a wonderful thing, and I'm very happy and appreciative. that happened, but that was a temporary thing. I got some money, and I got to go to continue with school. But the big miracle to me happened on the bluffs of Dillingham. When I prayed, more than money, I want you. And knew that I had hit on my soul's deepest need. And knew as well that that was God's greatest desire to give to me. And that experience, I can't say that I've never been hungry before. I've never been worried about the future before. But always when I have, ever since that day, I go back to that bread. And I remember what my priorities are. And I pray that prayer. And every single time, I find my soul satisfied. Well, enough about me. How about you? What is the bread of life for you? What is your soul's deepest hunger and satisfaction? 2,000 years ago, Jesus spoke of the bread of life, and he also spoke of bread in another way at this table. When on a night of betrayal and desertion, he took bread and he broke the bread, saying, "My friends, this is my body, which is broken for you. Do this as often as you eat of it in remembrance of me." So likewise, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This is the cup of the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink of it in remembrance of me." By eating this bread and drinking this cup, we remember Christ's life and his death, and we celebrate his resurrection. And also we come to know why Christians have taken this into their bodies and blood every single week for 2,000 years. Because it is a reminder of the bread of life, the true bread of life. It is a reminder that even in the darkest hour, God is present. If we ask for God's presence, God keeps showing up. These are the gifts of God for the people of God. If you already have your bread with you, that's been supplied. And perhaps by having this bread already with you, maybe this is also a signal to you this morning that which you are most deeply craving for yourself is already here for you to receive. As you come forward, we invite you to take your bread and dip it into the cup. And as you take this into your body and blood, know that God is with you now, ready to satisfy your own soul's deepest need. Not only ready, but glad to do it. The gifts of God for the people of God. I invite our servers to come forward to prepare the feast. And as they come forward, let us remind ourselves of who we are and whose we are. We are an open and inclusive... Sorry, let's start that over again. I got you off wrong. We are an inclusive, open, and affirming family of faith, welcoming all to God's table of love and acceptance. We are diverse, yet united by Christ's example. We care for one another, support one another, and challenge one another to become all that God creates us to be. We work together to nurture our community and to promote peace and justice in our conflicted world. Amen.